Archaeologists' discoveries are helping us understand the past better than ever, right? Well, not really. In fact, the researchers keep recovering artifacts that simply don't make any sense in the historical context. Some of these finds even give reason to completely overturn the official historiography. This includes, in particular, the fourth point of today's video. If you want to know what topic scientists are scratching their heads about, you should definitely stay tuned. But before we get started, make sure you hit the like button and ring the notification bell to stay up to date with our future videos. Also, stick around until the end to hear one of the most unbelievable discoveries so far. The Medallion of the Pharaoh. After taking power, the ancient Egyptian king Akhenaten decided to completely change the religion of his people. Under his reign, the sun god Aten was placed above all other Egyptian gods, and to this day, historians are puzzled as to what prompted Akhenaten to make such a drastic change. According to an old story, the answer to this intriguing question could be hidden in a mysterious medallion that Akhenaten is said to have once possessed. On the corresponding object, we see something reminiscent of a huge UFO. Above this is a bizarre figure that looks like a classic alien and is enthroned above the pharaohs and gods placed below. So the scenery immortalized on the medallion shows how the ancient Egyptian population was ruled by extraterrestrials. In the ranks of the convinced pre-astronauts, it has always been suspected that the inhabitants of the pharaonic kingdoms were in lively exchange with extraterrestrial intelligences and worshipped them as supernatural deities. The problem? Nobody knows whether the legendary medallion even existed. So while one camp sees the object of absolute proof of pre-astronautics, others see it as nothing more than a modern myth. The Savior's Tomb. The New Testament tells of Jesus being buried in a tomb after his death on a cross, which he left again 3 days later. But where is the legendary tomb in which, according to biblical tradition, the Christian Savior rose from the dead? Well, in this respect, there are 3 tombs in Jerusalem that made this claim for themselves. 5 kilometers south of the Old Town is the so-called Talpot Tomb. The crypt was discovered during construction work in 1980 and contained 10 bone boxes. One of these so-called ossuaries bore an inscription that was later deciphered as Jesus, son of Joseph. If the bones of the Christian Savior and Redeemer really are here, the stories of Jesus' resurrection would be called into question completely. From a technical point of view, however, the interpretation of the Talpot tomb as a family tomb of Jesus does not seem particularly valid. The reason that most people reject this tomb for belonging to Jesus Christ is simply because the evidence doesn't back up such claims. For one, some people believe the inscription of the tomb of so-called Jesus does not appear to match the age of the inscriptions on the other tombs. The etchings on Jesus' tomb appear to be far more recent than the others. Another hitch in the theory is that many people were given the name Yeshua during this time, which translates to Jesus. The name would be just as similar as common English name like John or Bill. There was also a tomb found with the inscription Judah, son of Jesus. Yet from the countless historical records we have that document the life of Jesus, we know that he never had a son. The list could go on, but the fact is, many experts from various colleges and research facilities have concluded that this tomb, in fact, does not belong to the historical figure we all know as Jesus Christ. Others see the last resting place of the Son of God as being the so-called Garden Tomb. But even in this case, the assignment is anything but undisputed. Last but not least, there is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem's Old City. According to tradition, this is the exact spot where Jesus was once crucified and buried. Consequently, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is one of the most important sanctuaries of Christianity. Holy Nails. Speaking of which, the holy nails are said to be the very objects with which Jesus Christ was once crucified. For this reason, the nails of the cross are also among the most important relics of Christ in the Catholic Church. However, the problem arises that several churches claim to own the legendary artifacts. But who owns the real holy nails? Since the historical records of the respective objects are often very uncertain and incomplete, the question is extremely difficult to answer. While some experts believe authenticity is most likely in the relics in the Trier Cathedral and the Roman Santa Croce, others suspect none of these official shrines were used at the crucifixion. One thing we must keep in mind is that during the time that Jesus was crucified, metals such as iron were incredibly valuable and very difficult to manufacture. Because of this, most scrap iron would have been reused, melted down, or something similar. Because of this, a large portion of people don't believe that these nails even exist anymore. If they do, they have likely been lost to history and will never be recovered. Inexplicable footprints. A short look into our past shows that the original species of the genus Homo was Homo rudolfensis. If scientific estimates are to be believed, around 2.5 million years ago, our extinct relatives entered the terrestrial stage in East Africa. At first glance, it appears to be the footprint of a modern human. However, the footprint has been dated to be 5.7 million years old. However, according to our official knowledge, Homo sapiens only evolved around 300,000 years ago. If scientific estimates are correct, the ancestors of modern humans lived in Africa more than 5 million years ago and still had ape-like feet, according to official doctrine. However, the forward-pointing toes and long sole of the footprint discovered on Crete completely turns this common scheme on its head. At the time the footprints were made, what is now the island was part of the mainland. The Sahara did not exist at that time either. In theory then, it is possible that the anthropoids migrated north from Africa and eventually reached what is now Greece. Another possible explanation is that our scientific understanding of human development is simply wrong, or the more probable explanation, our understanding of carbon dating is incorrect. The truth that many scientists tend to overlook when using carbon dating is that various events on our planet over the years could have drastically increased or decreased the amount of carbon-14 on our planet. Just a single cosmic event could shift the carbon-14 timeline by tens of thousands of years, maybe more. Because of this, carbon-14 dating has been deemed unreliable by many scientists and historians. However, the bulk of the scientific community continues to use this technique, even when they have clear evidence that its results may be inaccurate. To lend credit to this technique, it does seem to be remarkably accurate when we're calculating timelines of events that have taken place within the last few thousand years. However, when we begin to make assumptions that takes us millions of years into the past, the entire technique is virtually useless. Human superbrains. Why did the human brain experience such a rapid growth spurt? Scientists have been asking themselves this question ever since this surprising development became known. In a span of a few 100,000 years, our brains evolved faster than that of any other known creature on our planet. If the traditional scientific timeline is to be believed, some researchers believe that the growth spurt happened in a much more rapid rate, potentially over the course of a few thousand years or even a few hundred. Some researchers at Tel Aviv University believe the growth explosion was due to changes in our ancestors' hunting habits. At first, people hunted large animals such as bison. The constant hunting eventually led to the fact that the massive prey animals became increasingly scarce. From then on, our ancestors were forced to ambush much smaller, more agile animals, a more demanding task, which therefore required significantly more brain power. Those who managed to master the hunt for the smaller animals ensured their own survival and passed their genes onto their descendants. However, whether these theses are really true is controversial. Pluto's destiny. Discovered in 1930, Pluto was an official member of our planetary system for over 75 years. The galactic end finally followed in 2006. The official planet definition was reconsidered by the International Astronomical Union, which is why Pluto is now classified as a new dwarf planet. But what actually sealed the fate of the former planet back then? This was because more and more comparable celestial bodies were being discovered in Pluto's cosmic home, the Kuiper Belt. In order to keep the list of planets in the solar system manageable, the astronomers decided to clarify the general definition of the term. To be recognized as a planet, an astronomical body must revolve around the Sun. be nearly spherical in shape and have its orbit cleaned of other orbits. It was precisely this last point that finally became Pluto's undoing. There is still a lot of discussion about whether Pluto should be included in the list of our planets again. Memories in the womb. A new study has shown that fetuses develop short-term memory as early as 30 weeks of age. As part of their work, the researchers examined a total of 100 unborn children. They exposed the babies in the womb to very soft sounds that caused vibrations. The reactions of the fetuses were analyzed using ultrasound equipment. The exciting result: if a baby hears a noise often enough, it will get used to it over time. From the 30th week of pregnancy, the fetus can remember the specific stimulus for about 10 minutes. After 34 weeks, unborn children are capable of storing impressions in their memories for up to 4 weeks. The Bust of Nefertiti. The Bust of Nefertiti is undoubtedly one of the most famous works of art from ancient Egypt. Discovered in Tel El Amarna in 1912, the image of the queen has graced the collection of the Egyptian Museum in Berlin for several years. However, the discovery of this unique artifact also sparked a heated debate that continues to this day. At that time, the German Oriental Society managed to track down the bust. At that time, however, Egypt was still under British rule, so the precious object reached Germany under the conditions of the occupiers and not under those of the Egyptians. For this reason, the head of Nefertiti is often regarded as looted colonial art. The Egyptian authorities have been trying to get the bust returned for around 100 years, so far in vain. Estimates vary as to how much this prime example of ancient Egyptian sculpture is worth. While an insurance company put the corresponding value at 300 million euros, other experts believe that it is at least 400 million euros. The original noodle. The Chinese, the Italians, or the Arabs. Scientific minds have always argued about which people put pasta on their plates first. The oldest known pasta was recovered from a site called Laja. This is a Neolithic site in China, estimated to be 4,000 years old. And it was there that the archaeologists once came across noodles made from clover millet and proso millet that were over 50 centimeters long and 3 millimeters thick, and which were once sealed in a stone vessel. Particularly interesting, the ancient noodles were made using the so-called lamian method. The dough is repeatedly stretched, turned, and folded, and indeed, this special method of preparation is still used in many Chinese kitchens today. Animal evolution. When did animals as we know them come into existence? This question has been on the minds of scientists for some time. We now know that the primordial organisms once began to form exoskeletons and evolved into animals during the so-called Cambrian explosion. This process is often referred to us as the Big Bang of life on Earth. However, the question of what life was like before this explosion development is still one of the greatest mysteries in research. This is mainly due to the fact that these animals, which still have no shell or skeleton, only left indistinct traces which are very difficult to interpret and which make a reliable assessment impossible. One of the most famous known progenitors of the Cambrian fauna is the Kimbrella, a type of primordial snail. In the case of Spreggina, too, it is suspected that it could have been a Precambrian worm. Why the Cambrian explosion happened at all is also uncertain. It may have been a process that practically accelerated itself. Other theories are based on the fact that the oxygen content in the sea only reached a sufficient level for higher life at this time. All right, folks, now it's your turn. Which discovery surprised you the most? And what do you think the mysterious Crete footprints are all about? We look forward to your comments. Leave us a like and a subscription so that we can dive into the world of the most spectacular finds and theories again soon. Thanks for watching. Take care and see you next time.